And also, big thanks again to Dan handling sound and a million other things tonight. Everything sounded incredible, so thank you, Dan. I figured we could have a little short chat because, yeah, very short. I know you like it short. Well, first I wanted to ask about this performance, and you mentioned in a funny way this might be the oldest piece on the program because it's something you guys have been working on. And I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the nature of the genesis of this piece and how you collaborated on it and how it reached this form.
Yeah, the material in it is from 2018, maybe. It was sort of like made in a period of mourning for a friend. And Tashi had made an album, and I was gonna make a film for one of the songs on that album. And so, like, I thought, we've done a lot of performances together with slides and sometimes with film. And so I thought to make some new material and just see, maybe we would use it in performance, but it would also go into this film that I was making for the album, and to sort of like start making work again, because I hadn't been for a while. And so that was like sort of the genesis of it. We got like asked to do, so it ended up in this music video for Mutable Science, and some of it, I mean very little bit of it. And then I had just all this stuff and didn't know what to do with it, and we were asked to do a performance in like a week deadline. So we kind of just were like, okay, we're gonna just do something with this stuff. It was okay, but like we hadn't rehearsed it all. And I told Tashi that I thought it would be maybe like 12 or 15 minutes, but it was like a half hour or like 35 minutes. So I always wanted to come back to it and work on it again, but I got busy after that, and then like, you know, then it was 2020, so I wasn't gonna do any performances for a while. So it kind of sat around for a long time. I don't know if that's like a good answer, yeah, it's like a long answer.
I don't know if I have anything to add about the genesis, but yeah, and this kind of environment for me is, it's always fun because the eyes are off of me, so it's kind of a chance to do something different, kind of step outside of what I would normally do, and kind of relax. Like it's a nice space to be in the dark, and kind of left to myself to do. And Dicky is very fun to work with. We've done a lot of things together, and we kind of yeah, it's all very intuitive. Like, I don't feel like we really, there's not a lot of like concept beforehand or anything. We kind of put things together and see how they work, and we each kind of take care of our own world and adjust things, and yeah, so it's a nice space to be in for me while working on it and in the performance.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could also just like say like a little bit about like why the material is the way it was. Like, so there's two parts to it. One is that, like, since I was like a teenager and saw Brackage's film The Dead for the first time, I've been like repeatedly doing that, like trying to put positive and negative together on top of one another. And like I, at some point, went into Sandy's camera, and they had like an optical slide duplicator that was priced at whatever price it had been when they like made it. So it was like $15, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll get that. And I've used it a lot. It's like one of the things that I've used the most in making work. And so, I use it to like I make negatives and then I duplicate them to make positive images of them. So that's, and then I got really into making cyanotypes onto film from the negatives and positives, so that was sort of like where this sort of that interesting. But I love that film, The Dead. It's a really good film.
I was thinking a lot, because you do a lot of still photography too, and I was thinking a lot during the performance in particular about the combination of still and moving image, but also you're using analytic projectors, so you're able to modify the speed at which we're seeing it, which also enhances the flicker. I was thinking a lot about how drone, which you incorporate some of in your performance and your score, has that same quality of being both still and moving at the same time. And I was thinking about that with regard to how you're using still and moving images. And I was wondering if, how much you might have discussed about like what kind of, music, what kind of images, or is it pretty improvisational, like let's see what works?
Well, yes, I think the way, I don't know if I totally understand how the image works, but the kind of phasing that happens between the different speeds of the shutter, is that correct? Shutter? The shutter speed. Yeah, and I tried to incorporate that into the sound, having these sounds that are phasing and different speeds of phasing kind of running into each other and then sort of building up. So yeah, I think that, I definitely worked from the image in that way. I also, something when we started working on this again, I actually couldn't, I remembered the performance we did, but I couldn't really remember what we did, because it had been a while, and then Dicky mentioned that this had happened shortly, I don't remember how long after, our friend passed away. And he said it was like this kind of period of mourning, and then I immediately came back to it. I didn't remember exactly what I did, but just like the atmosphere that we were creating was was back with me, so.
Well, and I said in my introduction that it was both really exciting, but maybe I implied it was a little challenging to consider how to put together a program of your work. And I mentioned that a lot of your work has a contingent quality. And I find you to always be like a really rigorous artist, and you're really prolific too, but part of that is you're just really bold with going out, filming things, filming ideas, working with the material. But often this stuff takes on this kind of, it's got a transient quality because you're going back, you're changing things, you're reworking material, you're working with performance a lot. And I was wondering, to what degree that's sort of working with fixed forms and fixed ideas and then with fixed results is sort of in conflict with this desire to always be changing things and always, not just in performance, but even in the finished single channel work. You're kind of, I think you changed a couple of things before we did the show tonight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what are those forces at work, and how, is that just your personality manifest in the process, or?
Yeah, I think I like the, paradox of trying to make something that isn't fixed out of things that are fixed. It's like an interesting idea to me. I get a lot of ideas from music and musicians. So not just my friends, but also other people. And one of a piece of music that I really find fascinating is that's me picking it up. The John Cage's Concert for Piano and Orchestra, which is a huge set of material that can be performed by whatever, any number of musicians, and they can choose to perform the sections of their parts in whatever way they want. But it's interesting to me is that there's this huge set of material that makes up the work, and then any performance of it is the work, even though they might sound nothing alike. And I find that interesting, and so when I think it's a fun challenge to try to make a film that has some kind of quality like that in it. So I have a lot of pieces that exist in my closet as like a box of stuff. And if I ever want to show it, I have to like remake it from all these pieces. And it's fun. It's also like really annoying. Like I get really like annoyed with myself for like doing that. And I always think like, oh, next time I'm just going to make something really simple. And then it ends up being more complicated somehow. Like I thought like that I would make, at one point I thought like, I'm just not gonna make any films or performances, I'm just gonna make like photographs. And then I started making these pieces that were like hundreds of pieces of paper that had to be like, hung up individually. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I guess it's just like, I guess it's a question of like motivation too. Like I just like, in order to feel motivated to make work, I have to have some sort of like, you know, like problem that probably can't be solved that I want to try to work on.
I mean, that's very Cajun, right? Like that excitement about the unplanned and the chance and like all the unpredictable elements that come in. Because you can have all these fixed elements, but the way they then manifest. And that's why actually the next thing I wanted to ask you about was the approach to media and how you've embraced a different relationship to digital recently. You alluded to this in the introduction. And this idea, I mean, you could go back and re-edit stuff, but there's a degree to which a digital video, like we played, you know, for digital video pieces, you know, that is kind of a fixed thing.
Yeah, and yet, like most of them actually that I showed tonight have more than one. They have like, I have too many versions of them for different reasons. Like the one that has the piece of music by Raum, that was like the second to last one, and the silent one early on where I'm painting the circles. Both of those, I used the same material in the long film that I made for Grouper to perform with, but they're edited differently. They're very similar, but they're also quite different. And then the painting one, I also like expanded it into a half-an-hour piece for Chris Duncan to perform with on Friday night in Oakland. So yeah, I mean, theoretically, it would be nice if I would just leave them alone, but it's also really easy to change them. And I'm really indecisive, which is why I really thank you for choosing the program, because I was like, I don't know. I was like, oh, can I like set up an installation in the law? In my mind, I was thinking of all these like, crazy things that I would do, and I was like, I'm not gonna do it unless you ask me to. It's just like, I'll like make it really complicated. I'll like be like, there's like a program that's like 3 hours, and like you have to like move to different rooms to like have different things.
Well, we can do that next time.
Yeah.
Are you up for a couple of questions?
Sure.
Maybe? I don't know if anybody had a question or two. It's dark, so we can't quite see anybody in the back. It's raising their hand. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah. Actually, wait, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So, in the last silent piece before the performance, that's your dad in the film?
Yeah, that's my father.
What is he laughing at?
Oh, I was making fun of him for how badly he was playing backgammon.
It's like one of my favorite moments. It's just because he's laughing so fully, and
Yeah.
it's like I can almost hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he really enjoyed that I was making fun of him because when me and my brother were young, he used to make us play with him, and he would tell us why all the things we were doing were wrong, and then would laugh at us when we lost. So I was giving him a hard time about, and he really enjoyed that. Yeah, that film. Okay, so the story about that film is that one is that it was made for a TV station in Portugal. They asked me to make a film, and they were like 15 to 20 minutes, whatever you want, and then we're gonna have someone make music for it, and they didn't tell me who it was gonna be, so I just made this film. And if you want to see the version of it that has music, it was Matmos made music for it, and that's online. You can watch it online. So I chose to show it silent because I made it silent. I didn't hear the music until they showed it online. So, and I like the music, but it completely changes like the rhythms of what I was doing visually, and so I thought like, well, this is my solo show, so I'm gonna show it like silent, and then you can watch it with music if you want to later. The other thing about it is that my father, like a few years ago, he was like, when is Father's Day? It's in like June, so it was like the beginning of June. He was like, you know what holiday's coming up? I'm like, what do you want me to get you for Father's Day? And he was like, can you get me a new set of golf clubs? And I was like, no, I don't like have a job. I'm not gonna buy golf clubs. Then he said, okay, well, I want you to make a film about me, starring me, dedicated to me. And so I made this film. And yeah, I thought that was right. And then when I sent it to him to watch, he didn't say anything for like 2 weeks, and I was like, I wonder if he's gonna say anything. And then because he doesn't really, like one critique that he had of some photographs that I made at one point was like, you see, I just don't understand why anyone would want to look at these. So I sent it to him, and I didn't really know like what to expect. I thought in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a film that's like, he also turned 70 this year, so I dedicated it to him for his birthday. It was like my birthday gift to him. What was I saying? I was gonna say something. Oh, and so I didn't know, I was like, I make a film about something that he really likes, which is backgammon. It's like the only thing that he likes that I also enjoy that we could do together. And then he also likes weed a lot, so I thought if it was like psychedelic, he might enjoy watching it while he was stoned. And so I don't know, he watched it and then he didn't say anything, and I was like talking to my mother, and I was like, you know, Baba didn't say anything about if he liked the film or not. And so she nagged him about it, and he was like, oh yeah, I watched it. I think you captured my beautiful spirit perfectly.
That can go on the poster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know if anybody came up with a question at all. No. I mean, I was kind of hesitant to do a Q&A because I thought, no, it's we end with the performance, but then I thought, no, we gotta hear from you guys about this. And
yeah, you don't have to have any questions. It's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
I hate Q&As. So.
Yeah, that's what. See, I left it entirely up to Dicky what kind of Q&A.
I was like, no, and then like, it's like I'm being such a brat and like a predictable brat if I say no Q&A, so I'll just do it.
Well, initially you were like, okay, but only 2 questions from the audience.
Yeah. Well, the other problem is that, and Ali Peoples, who's here, knows this, because we were in a screening in the Bay Area, and someone asked me like some, I don't know what question, and then I actually spent like 25 minutes talking about my father. So, and my film in that program was like 2 minutes long or something. So I guess I also love Q&As. Wait, oh, you have a question? Okay. Should I give her a
Yeah, let's do it.
I can speak.
Okay.
I was wondering about this film with Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
The sound was really beautiful and nice collaborative. I would like you to say a little bit about how you collaborated with her, with the sound, what came first and how that developed.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah gave me the music and just said, I mean, she had this album that was coming out, and she wanted to have a pair of films made as like, you know, music videos for it, and so she gave me the songs and just, you know, said, let me do whatever I want, and so it wasn't collaborative in the same way as the performance is, but I think, like, I make films for musicians a lot. I mean, I collaborate with musicians' performances and do other things, but there's a number of musicians that I work with and who will ask me to make music videos for them, but it's one of my, like, I guess a condition. I know it's not like I like put it as like an ultimatum, but I sort of like can't do it unless I can make the film that I want to make to the music. So it's really just like I listen to the music like dozens and dozens of times before I think about what I want to do to it or with it, and how I can make something that would like respect the music and contribute something to it. So yeah, so yeah, and that was Chloe Reyes is the person in that film, who is a former student and a very good friend, and who's been in a bunch of my films and has helped me make some of my films by like flashing lights off and on for me, or helping me focus the camera or something like that.
Well, if there isn't anybody else with a question, I think we can adjourn to the lobby and to the bar. And thank you guys both so much. Thanks again. Thank you all for coming.